don't have to look anymore now that I've seen you. I don't have to dream anymore now that you came true. I'm already yours. I don't have to look anymore now that I've seen you. I don't have to dream anymore now that you came true. I'm already yours. I'm already yours. I don't have to look anymore now that I've seen you. I don't have to dream anymore now that you came true. I'm already yours.
All right, I'm going to put color to this rather quickly done doodle inspired by the events of the Rumble at Rodney's. In one corner, we have Stuttering John. In the other corner, we have Anthony Cumia. So, this was anticipated for some amount of time, well, a week, and Stuttering John was, I believe, the headliner for Rodney's comedy show for the night and all that stuff. And then, of course, Anthony announced he was going to go, bring some friends and all this sort of stuff. Apparently, Stuttering John was only able to sell 16 tickets, but with Anthony bringing friends and everybody, and of course people wanting to see Anthony, the room was packed, thanks to the journalistic endeavors of one Vince the lawyer. Got to see that. Now, I was watching it on Melton's live stream, and pretty much got the whole thing there. So, of course, I'm sure everyone knows, Stuttering John shows up. Anthony ends up introducing him, which probably pissed him off. But, it was not that big of a deal. So he goes up, and instead of doing comedy, he just reads the police report of when Anthony got arrested. It's probably 10 years ago now, when he had that dust up with an ex-paramour at the time, and that sort of thing. And so he just decided to read that. Everyone starts booing and, demanding he do his act and all this stuff. And then Tommy Jordan steps up and rips the papers to shreds. Stuttering John does some sort of victorious pose because, he's Stuttering John, takes a swig of beer, says skull, and then leaves. It's like, what are you doing? He could have stayed there and just went through his act. He had been talking about all these, they're all jokes at Anthony's expense, the usual crap and allegations and all that stuff. So he's going to do that, but he didn't. He just bails and leaves. It was pathetic. And man, of course, filters on camera and everything. Obviously he utilizes that, because holy crap, did he look really haggard walking up to that stage. And, as per Anthony's observations, he appeared to be quite plastered. And odds are, yes, I'm sure he was. So that's how it unfolded. I'm sure the club has to be pissed off at this. You pay him to do a comedy act, and he really does it. Now, technically, he did, because the key to Stuttering John's comedy is to be a comic by accident, and he does that very, very well. He just accidentally stumbles into things that are funny. The sad thing is he can never appreciate it himself, because it's everybody laughing at him, not with him or at his clever takes and humor, or he really came up with a great joke or anything like that. No, it's the details and evidence of his massive stupidity, which erupts at a given moment. And here, all the things one wondered if he just didn't want to face this, because, even he understood that if it's Anthony's crowd, so, odds are it's a hostile environment, and so he's going in there with that. So what were his chances? Well, historically, if you go back to the Opie and Anthony days when they did Jocktober and stuff like that, this wasn't always the case. Most of the case, these different shows that they would roast and all that, most of them would just try to ignore it or something like that. They might say a few snotty things back or what have you. But every now and then, you had some of them were able to turn it around, and usually just through being able to laugh at yourself and that sort of thing. And it's just sort of like, well, you got me, that kind of thing. It goes a long way, typically. And one example of this is the contrast of between what was his name, Todd Pettengill and Scott Shannon. Now, they were radio hosts, and they were partnered up for a morning show, and they had a good long run, but eventually Scott Shannon moved on to some other network, I believe, or something. I'm getting it all wrong in some aspect, but something of that nature. And Todd Pettengill was going to take over the show and really do it right and all this sort of stuff. Turns out he was the problem. Scott Shannon actually had a really great attitude, and he ended up talking to Opie and Anthony and all that. And he just took it all in stride. It didn't really bother him that much. He says, yeah, they're making fun of him. And he's like, yeah, well. And of course, he was the older of the two by somewhat, not a whole lot, I don't think, because Todd Pettengill saw himself as this young up and coming guy, but he wasn't. Stuff like that. But he was deadly serious about it all. And but it's all supposed to be silly and funny radio and everything. When he was clearly very angry and stuff like that. And boy, he really reminds one of Anthony's former partners. But anyway, that was the case. So it's sort of the opposite of who has the better take on this sort of thing, of taking it in stride, not being so seriously upset, and like this is some dastardly crime committed against you when it's, jokes and whatnot. And you see the difference between the two, of who's more of his own man, who's more mature, and it's like, yeah, It just really did not get under his skin, whereas someone like Pettengill, it was so obvious it did. And that means it goes on much longer. And it's the difference in personalities, I suppose. Some are capable of it and some aren't. But anyway, a lot of that, there was another one, I think it was some host out of a Canadian show, And them too kind of laughed at. I mean, the jokes were terrible. They were horrible jokes about them. Pretty brutal, and yet they laughed it off. And what was there, Humble and Fred or something like that? I can't remember. And I believe they had a radio show, but they got fired or got canceled, whatever. And they ended up doing a podcast. And I guess they had some kind of following. I can't remember if they were actually in Toronto or whatever. But after all that, so they end up talking to Opie and Anthony, and they just had a good attitude about it. Yeah. It's like no one meant any serious harm to anyone or anything like that. It was just, jokes. And you win over respect that way, not just from the likes of Opie and Anthony or whatnot, but from the audience, more importantly, that kind of thing. So the thing about is John ever going to be capable of that? At this point, no. You would have to conclude, no, he's not capable of this. The sad thing about it, if he had just went ahead, did his bit, his set, and all of that, I don't know. Some of them people, it would have gone on better than what he ended up doing. And just bowing out like that and leaving them after, people paid to be there and all this stuff. Then there's the whole business of how to clear the tabs for the servers and stuff. He just ups and leaves. So there was no show to be, waitresses going to the tables and everything. It was a mess, And so it was just, absolutely unprofessional and all that sort of thing. So he didn't do himself any favors, which he rarely does. And one can wonder, what excuse will he hold? How's he going to explain this one? My guess is he would probably take advantage of Tommy Jordan coming on the stage and ripping up the police report papers. And John says, well, that's assault. And Rodney's didn't provide proper security, all this stuff. And that it unsettled him or whatever. And I demand professionalism myself, and so that's why he left in a huff. Something like that. He'll probably come up with some excuse like that if he thinks of it. And he might. I mean, he was sitting there and all of a sudden some guy grabs his stuff and rips it to shreds. But anyway, he didn't do himself any favors. And he just says, I was in front of a hostile crowd. So he'll have excuses. But just out of the due diligence of you were there to do a show. You should have done your show. But there was other talk of he might not show up at all. He might cancel all this stuff. He didn't do that, but considering what he did do, maybe he should have, because this is probably the dumbest thing he could have done. And that's the amazing thing about Stuttering John. You think eventually it gets old, and tired. He's long since been, at first he was unseated by Stutjo in the Dabbleverse. And now, you'd have to give it that Karmic is the main center of the Dabbleverse at the moment for who's king locale for the moment. While Stutjo is, just squirming and wiggling around, and where'd everybody go? Your story's kind of done for the moment. So just when you think Stuttering John is done, he does manage to pull some new act of stupidity that ends up being rather funny. It's just everybody else can enjoy it but him. And that's the sad thing about it, I suppose. But, yeah, it didn't have to go that way. But, I mean, I would admit that I would have some amount of respect if he had sat there and did his act anyway. You know, it's certainly what I expect, because when that happened in the paper shred and he went and grabbed his beer and said his skull thing and all that, well, I thought, okay, he's going to get ready to do his jokes. He had, like I said, he had already talked about the jokes he was going to do and all that, and that's what I was expecting. And then he just gets up and leaves. And I'm like, huh? And that was it. So, yeah, not a good idea of what to do, but he did. And with that audience, and you know, it's still a variety of people. So, had he done his act and some of that, he could get some chuckles and laughs out of it. And a lot of them, they're in a raucous attitude, and you know, you get something out of it. It would go a lot better for him. And again, it's a matter of, you do earn a certain amount of respect when you don't just run away. Obviously, if you run away, you forget it, you know, and stuff like that. And, you know, I'm taking my football home and I'm not doing this, you know, all that kind of stuff, which is kind of what he did. So, yeah, well, you'll never know now because he didn't do it. But now, looking at that he makes the whole thing about Anthony Cumia and all the idiot allegations and stuff to go into his jokes, which is pretty much the same material. It's just not reading a police report. It's just, so, yeah, maybe not so much in that, but it depends on delivery and stuff like that, I suppose, of how you would approach it, or, you know, certainly at the scene. But again, he didn't, and so the opportunity of something of that nature is denied him now, all by himself. So there you go. Now, Vince the lawyer is out there filming this and just laughing at him, and will he get it now? And people kept saying that apparently the idea to read the police report was Ava's idea. So these are his trusted friends, you understand? So I don't know. So what a mess. Yeah. Oh, well. Anyway, doing the color here for the drawing where it's just pencil. I didn't go over it in ink. So, what to do? You can put it in Photoshop and get it pretty close. Some of these pencil drawings, you can kind of capture it okay enough to where it ends up looking like an inked drawing. But there's just too much here that I did. And I knew it at the time I was doing it, but I was just doing it because I knew I was going to go ahead and tweet it out, because I thought it was a pretty funny image just unto itself as a drawing. And so, I had to put some amount of detail to it. And so that's what I did. So here, it's basically akin to like watercolor over a drawing. So in Photoshop, you do it like that with these. Well, they are called brushes. That's right. They most certainly are. And do it like that. putting a little too much color. I think there needs to be some gray here. Yeah. He did have a new haircut. He might want to get his money back on that. It was kind of messed up, but sometimes that happens with a new haircut. After a while, it'll be all right. Oops, that's too much. So we'll add the skin color here. But one of the things, I always knew he was, kind of a short guy. But seeing him like that on the stage and around the others it was really dramatic. And like Melton was, look at him, he's really tiny. And it was like, yeah, he really is. I've seen stuff from the Stern days and stuff like that, but I don't know. Maybe it looks like he might have shrunk since then. I don't. It does happen sometimes. So there he was. There was some brief altercations with Kevin, but looks like nothing really came of that. Except for some guy pissed off Anthony, so he grabbed his glasses and threw him on the sidewalk. And he's just all of a sudden grabbed, there you go. So I was like, oh, jeez. I wasn't really expecting Anthony to do that. But now, from the camera, it was the guy's camera view that I saw. I think there was another shot of it. But it certainly looked that way from the camera, that the guy was really in his face. And you are asking for it with stuff like that. Usually a lot of, yeah, whatever, and just move on. But it's easy to understand why he was pissing Anthony off with that nonsense, just to get his little shitty video and all. Well, he got it. He got his video, and so on. And seemed like his glasses were okay. So yeah, he'll be fine. Okay, maybe take that there. There's his arm. And I was going to kind of draw him in an almost ape-like stance, and I still might in another drawing. As Anthony said, don't worry, folks. That's titanium steel. Yeah. But yeah, he's really small. And one wonders if he'd walk up on stage to other comics and, who are you? Who are you? I escorted Howard Stern to the stage. Who are you? Who are you? So, but anyway, the whole thing, then, I've often been of the opinion, there's this guy who did a whole, bio. He did 2 videos. I'm forgetting his name because it's on YouTube, but it's like, sort of this, like a bio documentary on Stuttering John. So it start part 1 is his Stern days, and then the Tonight Show with Leno. And then part 2 really gets into when he ends up on Anthony's show, and how this feud, I guess, began. And I've always been of the opinion that the theory there was that he thought he would be Anthony's co-host, not Artie Lang. And he seems to really blame Artie Lang more than anything. If Artie Lang hadn't shown up, then nobody would be trashing Stuttering John, and which, of course, is absurd. But it's Artie Lang who put the idea in everyone's head. So I guess he's the original culprit more than Anthony. But in Stuttering John's estimation of events. But ultimately, it comes down to people who would get pissed at Anthony after chasing him and all that kind of stuff. It's because they thought they would get a show on Compound, and I suspect the likes of Zumach wanted that. Well, with Kevin, he did have a show, but things weren't going the way he wanted, so he got upset. But that's a different matter than these other people. And certainly with Stuttering John, I'm not being respected, as if he's on par. He doesn't understand that he was the butt of jokes and whatnot in the Stern Show. He was not considered on par with Howard Stern. He's not considered on par with, Artie Lang and the like, because he isn't, he's one of these jokes that tends to get made more fun of than any jokes he comes up with himself. And he just refuses to see it. I mean, hey, look, he got to do stuff most people could only dream of. Yeah, he got to hang out at Stern Show and all that. But he wants to be seen as this great talent. And this is unlikely. Yeah, I'm afraid so. So anyway, that comes up to then, people are like, yeah, I love Anthony. Anthony's great and stuff. And then they don't get a show on Compound. Anthony's a piece of shit. He's a criminal. He's, he's a pervert or whatever. Racist and all that stuff. All of which is stuff. Hey, 5 seconds ago you were kissing his ass. Now he's the most vile villain, on the face of the earth. It doesn't really compute at all. But other than Anthony didn't give me a show. And it was all this, if I could just get a show on Compound, then I don't have to get a real job. I can just, do the show, who cares if it's good or not, just as long as Anthony pays me to do a show. It's like, that's not much of a business model. And, well, it didn't happen, and he's been on the Anthony bent ever since. Even though it's absurd. I mean, Anthony didn't owe him a show or anything. Had him out on the show a couple of times. And then he increasingly became John becomes quite the asshole, and he take advantage of Anthony's good graces or what have you. I mean, he was, nice to him at first, but the guy was just trash, And God, boy, did I get tired of that stupid squeegee joke with his T-shirt and all that. And, God, it's disgusting. Now, he meant it to be disgusting, of course. That's the joke. Yeah, I know. It's still disgusting. And he kept telling it. It's as if he forgot he had already told it 1,000,000 times. And I guess he did. I don't know. But But ultimately, yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. People upset that chasing Anthony didn't lead to fame and fortune for them. And that's the way it goes, because you at least have to have a certain amount of talent for something like that to occur. And in any case, turns out now, Anthony, I don't know, had a whole lot of input. I'm sure there were some shows that he was particularly interested in that were brought on. And I think in the early days, Keith the Cop was looking at shows and stuff like that. But anyway, would mention it to Anthony. Oh, yeah, that's, that kind of thing. But as Anthony always said, he wanted to come in, do his show, and then go home. So he was not really running the show, because he does shows. He doesn't run companies. So now with censored with Gavin. Gavin's quite different. He has some managerial skill in him, more than most, when it comes to this approach to podcasting and all that sort of stuff, and is more well suited to it than Anthony was, because Anthony was just not interested in something like that. So I don't know if there would ever have been a situation where you invite Stuttering John to do a show on the platform. Now, be a different situation. It's censored or something like that. But yeah, that's not going to happen. It's not going to work, because why would you? And his takes on things are just so incredibly stupid. And just him doing elephant noises every now and then and stuff. I don't know. But he certainly didn't do himself any favors this time, and he's just so determined for everyone to realize just how brilliant he is. And it's never going to happen on account of him not being brilliant at all. Quite the opposite. So that's a tough thing to overcome, because everyone's, hey, look, it's the idiot, and that's the way it is. If he had some amount of sense, like I said, the potential to turn this around could have been there, and after a certain point, you've just been so rotten. No one really has any interest in playing nice with you at this point. And so eventually it's just, there is such a thing as too late, It does happen. Oh, well. Why can't people learn? Why? Well, I guess it's the old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can't teach an old stuttering drunk new tricks. So anyway, there you go. If this was supposed to be some sparring match, I guess Anthony for the win, And he was just there to watch the show. He wasn't there to do stand-up or anything. And he still won, so. I understand he went and did some karaoke afterwards, so that's nice. Um, he likes to do that. And, of course, we all know Anthony can sing. Remember, he was the lead singer of Rutgut. So, probably put on an even better, more entertaining show at the karaoke bar. And the people who got to see that had a fabulous time. So there we go. I don't know what background to put to it. Good. These days with AI, I can always go in and just, hey, make a New York street scene or something. It takes forever because I never know quite what the prompt is that it wants to look exactly like what I want it to be. And it's very irritating. However, this is not out of the realm of possibility that I would indeed, have AI do the background work for me. What the hell is it still? Oh yeah. What am I doing? I gotta merge. Is the select? Okay, there we go. All right. There we go. I'm gonna take that out of there. There's some of this. We don't really need it. Little extra bits. Anthony's pants fraying around all over the place. That's terrible. We can't have that. So there we go. Maybe take some of this out. Yeah. Come on. No, it's still just deselect. All right. Oh, that's way too much. What the hell are you... Good Lord, what the hell are you doing? All right. There we go. Ever so slightly. Ever so slightly. All right. I should put some sort of design for the beer, but... I don't know. It's just going to look stupid no matter what you do. I know. Could just do a sort of, let's see, maybe like that. No, too much. Okay, like this. Damn it, come on. There we go. That's good enough. There we go. That's amazing. That's wonderful. That's great. So there you go. Stuttering John. The man who hits every rake in the yard in an almost supernatural way. The accidental comic. Yeah. All right, this might work. Let's see here. Doom, doom, doom. Doom, doom. And you're gonna need another layer. Add that. Halftone pattern. There we go. Some amount of separation. And then we add our two characters here. Uh-oh. All kinds of artifact. Gee, it's almost like a Pink Floyd album cover. There we go. Whoa. What the hell? Yeah. It made it look like his jaw had some growth on it or something. Gonna get it away from that light. All right. Okay. All right. Fortunately, it's got all this crap words. Yeah, don't care much for that. Oops. Why is it? Oh well, skip it. It'll just have to be there. I guess if I took it off, then I could do it. Yeah. Ooh. I don't know if well, I guess. Take those out too. Alright, good enough. Oops. There you go. Ta-da! Yeah, white. Do I have? Nope. There we go, the Mr. Nailsin signature. So, ta-da! Yeah. How I wish you weren't here. There you go. Stutjo&Ant, Pink Floyd.
This is the end, beautiful friend. This is the end, my friend. It hurts to set you free, but you'll never follow me, because this is the end. This is the end, beautiful friend. This is the end, my friend. It hurts to set you free, but you'll never follow me, because this is the end.
You won't escape, my dear.
Please don't do this!
The mask stays on.